It's Randy Orton. Oh.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.
I wanted to wait for a day after this happened because, me being an idiot, I guess, I thought maybe we'd get a swerve. But we didn't. Daniel Bryan has retired from the WWE in ring, and as you can probably tell by my tone of voice, I'm very sad. You know, it's Edge all over again. I mean, this guy was probably one of my favourite wrestlers of the 2010s, along with CM Punk, who's also gone. So, you know, I mean, obviously a retired Bryan is better than, you know, a dead Bryan. And you know what? After hearing what he said about the whole thing with like a brain and like with his brain and whatnot, you know, that did kind of scare me, and that's kind of, you know, obviously I'm not wishing Bryan to return for my own selfish needs, but I'm still sad, you know. I'm still really sad about what's happened. You know, I think Daniel Bryan will definitely go down as one of the greatest in-ring performers in the WWE without a question of a doubt, and he's definitely one of the most beloved superstars as well, especially in an era where crowds aren't as alive, in my opinion, as they used to be. Like, especially if you look back at, you know, the Attitude Era, especially, like, crowds were so hot back then. In the more recent years of wrestling, crowds haven't always been as, you know, as great. I mean, obviously you get those hardcore crowds, but Bryan was a guy who could generate a reaction pretty much anywhere he went. And I remember one moment in particular that backs this up is when he turned on the Wyatt family on that Raw in 2014. And the crowd was pretty dead all throughout the night. But once Bryan turned on the Wyatts, that crowd erupted into yes chants. And, you know, I think... Sorry, I'm still kind of just adjusting to this, even though it's been a day, because I think I was thinking of doing it right after I heard about the retirement, but I think I needed time to sort of, you know, get over it, and just in case something happened on Raw. But you know, it was pretty obvious, I think, that he was going to retire. I mean, they wouldn't, you know, announce a retirement because of injury and then swerve us. Like, they did this with Mark Henry, but there was no mention of any injury or anything. WWE, I think, at this time aren't going to make storylines out of injuries, especially not nowadays. But, you know, Bryan was one of those guys who, you know, was so beloved by everyone. And you know what? You have those people who, you know, would call him overrated, or, you know, not, you know, yeah, as overrated. But, and you know what? That's fine. People are entitled to their own opinion. I'm not going to cry about what people think about, you know, Daniel Bryan. But I think one thing that you can't take away is the fact that he was so beloved, and the guy was talented in the ring. I don't think you can argue that, really. You know, I think the retirement speech he made was fantastic. You know, it really hit me right in the feels, you know. And, you know, he comes across as just such a nice guy, and he shows, you know, he really he's one of those wrestlers where he shows his personality through his character, which I think a lot of wrestlers don't really do nowadays. Like, they're given these characters that don't suit their personality, and it's just comes across as awkward. But whereas I think with characters who, you know, have, you know, elements of their personality, they really shine. Like, you see that with Bryan especially. Like, he's just such a nice guy, and the speech was great, you know. And I think the way I'm going to remember Bryan best is just as one of my all-time favourite wrestlers in a time where not necessarily the product was at its greatest, but Bryan was one of the reasons that I kept interest in the product, personally. Am I going to stop watching because of Daniel Bryan being gone? No, obviously not. There's still some guys on the roster now that I've got interest in, but, you know, I think it's definitely going to be tough adjusting to life without Bryan. I know he's been injured for so long, but I kind of just put myself in this kind of illusion that he would come back, and now that he's gone, it's going to be hard to adjust the fact that he's never going to wrestle ever again, you know. But I don't think this is the end for Bryan in terms of appearances. You know, who knows? Maybe, I mean, this is just something that I've been thinking about. He would be a great face general manager. God knows we need one. I think that he'd be a great replacement for the Authority as, you know, general manager. And I think there's definitely a place for him in the WWE. He's a guy that the people love, and I think they wouldn't want to see him, you know, just disappear off the face of the earth. I think I would like to see him in a role in the WWE, whether it's as, you know, a trainer or, you know, a commentator or whatever. But I think hopefully he will have some sort of role in the WWE still. You know, but I just look back, especially with Bryan, I look back at some of the amazing matches he had. You know, WrestleMania 30 as well just stands out to me. 2 classic matches in one night. His matches with Punk, you know, his matches with, you know, The Shield, and his matches where he teamed with Kane, and, you know, just so many great matches. You know, I don't want to list them all, but I think that's one thing that will come to mind for me with Daniel Bryan is, especially, you know, matches like with Punk at Over the Limit and Cena at SummerSlam, you know, versus Orton and Batista versus Triple H, and, you know, he's definitely going to go down as one of the greatest in-ring performers. I think it's a real shame that he was gone, because I think we could have got some even more great Daniel Bryan matches. We could have had more matches with Seth Rollins, you know, some matches with Dean Ambrose, you know, maybe a few more Roman Reigns matches, and, you know, obviously you've got people like AJ Styles coming in, who've come in, and, you know, it would have been really nice as well if, you know, later, and, you know, maybe if Nakamura got called up, or Samoa Joe, but unfortunately it's not the case. But obviously it's for his health, which I'm not gonna go, you know, say, oh, Daniel Bryan shouldn't retire. I get it, you know, but I'm still just very upset and sad. And when I first actually heard the news, I just sort of sat on my bed for a bit and just sort of stared blankly at the wall for about 10 minutes, just reflecting on Daniel Bryan and just how I was going to get over this. But, you know, anyway, I just want to say finally, thank you, Daniel Bryan, for everything. Thanks for taking us on this, you know, amazing journey of your WWE career. It wasn't the longest, but it was definitely an enjoyable one. Thank you for, you know, practically killing yourself in the ring, you know. And yeah, and just one final thing. I've seen a few people here and there. You know, I'm not going to name names because I just think I don't want to give the people the satisfaction of me saying who said what and whatever. But I've seen people saying, you know, like, they're glad that Daniel Bryan's retired because, you know, because they didn't like him or whatever, or he was overrated. And I just say, like, look, I don't expect everyone to be a fan of Daniel Bryan. I get that. I understand that. But what I can't stand is people who just, you know, wish, and they do this with injuries as well. People get injured or retired, they always say, oh, I'm glad they're retired. I'm glad that they're, you know, and whatnot. I just think that's just really pathetic, and I think that's just kind of shows, like, what kind of clown and what kind of a pathetic person you are, that you wish pain upon another human being. It's just quite a horrible thing to think, really. But anyway, thank you, Daniel Bryan. Thanks for everything. Hopefully this isn't the end. Hopefully we will see you in a WWE way in some capacity, and hopefully very soon you go into the Hall of Fame.